gentlemen, welcome to In the Zone. Pete Coles, our MVP as we call him, and Rich Sutter. We're in the zone. It's a lovely Thursday out there. It's raining like cats and dogs. But it's good for the grass, good for my lawn, Pete.
Everything is so green this year. It's unbelievable.
Very nice, very nice. It's very beautiful around here this time of year. And after a tough winter, love to see it. And so we're off in the zone, and there is a lot to cover today because, as promised, we were going to give you our first 30 picks in the draft today, and we are set, lock and load, ready to go. My mea culpa is that I did not get the graphics to Pete on time. When it comes time for our initial big draft where we incorporate everybody, we'll have the graphics, we'll be ready. Last night, the reason for the mea culpa is because the NBA draft deadline to pull out was last night at midnight. And so we were up and watching, he's out. Okay, he's out. Okay, he's going back. All right, he's out, but he's not going back. He's going someplace else for a deal. So it was a little frenetic last night, but it was fun nonetheless.
Is the portal having any effect on this, the NCAA portal? Do you think it's having an effect with guys making better deals that they might get than in the NBA draft?
It's got to be comparable.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
So if you're going to go low in the draft, right? You might get
right.
a better deal staying in college right now on the NIL.
That was, you and I discussed that a couple of shows back, where that might be one of the positives of the NIL, is that it does allow people to stay in college that little bit of extra time, maybe make a better decision about their draft situation. Yeah, I think you saw that with Deron Holmes last year from Dayton. He could have come out into the draft last year, maybe been picked late in the first round. I don't know how much he improved his spot by going back, but the amount of money he was able to grab at Dayton through an NIL deal probably eased the pain a little bit.
Sure.
So we're going to start off with a little bit of a Bronx tale today. The Bronx tale it's about an old Italian delicatessen that we used to have back home in the Bronx, and you would go there before you went to the beach. So you got into it, you got your car, and boom, by the time you got there, you had Tony behind the counter, and he's cutting the cold cuts and everything, and you got your buddies there, and you tell them what you want. But by the time you get to the beach, open up your sandwich, stare out at the beautiful Atlantic Ocean, you look down and you realize that Tony didn't give you what you want. But it was better than what you asked for. It was much better than what you asked for. But he didn't give you what you asked for. He gave you what you needed. He didn't give you what you wanted. He gave you what you needed. So here's a shout out to all of the general managers that are approaching this draft right now, because I went through it the last couple of days and it was harrowing. It was absolutely harrowing to try and figure this whole thing out. Now, my first portion was only NCAA players as well. But when I go back to my Cold Cut City analogy, this isn't Cold Cut City for you. It's not about what you want. It's not about what you need. What can you get? And that's what this draft is all about. You get, and what is going to grab you is no Wembayana in this draft right now that anybody can now. We'll take a look. Okay. Off into Feed 'em Fish, PA segment of Feed 'em Fish. And this is going to be a little bit sad to start with, but we have a Feed 'em Fish where there is a icon who is now sleeping with the Feed 'em Fish, and that is Bill. Tough battle with cancer recently. What an amazing ambassador for the basketball game. Somebody I always really, really enjoyed him as a player growing up. And I'm going to go out on a limb any of our In the Zone people to tell me that there was a better played in the NCAA realm of college basketball of all time, better than the game that Bill Walton played in the national championship game against Memphis. Larry Lean-In Keenan, Walton was 21 of 22 in that game from the floor. Led his team to the national title, and he was absolutely amazing. Any big man that's around right now that wants to get an idea of how you operate in the low post, that was a clinic right there. 21 out of 22 from the floor. He scored, I don't think he shot any free throws. He scored 42 points in the game, had a bunch of rebounds, went on to have a stellar NBA career. But Bill Walton's story also give you a little bit of the downside, the human element of basketball that's there sometimes, and it's a little bit difficult to tolerate sometimes as a human. But Bill Walton, as a pro, was injured at different times, and rather than give him the straight story about his injuries and what he should have been doing at that time, they proceeded to go to cortisone injections and all different things just to keep him playing, running up and down the floor. And that had a very, very deleterious impact on his career, in my opinion. Bill Walton was one of the greatest to play center position, in my opinion, but his career was also shortened. 21 out of 22, look it up. He was also a NBA champion with the Portland Trail Blazers. So Bill and the family, rest in peace. I hope the Grateful Dead is up there playing and you're having a good time. The Wizards have removed the interim tag from Brandon Keefe, who will now be the head coach. He was their assistant coach. I'm going to scratch my head a little bit on this one, Pete. You just fired your coach because you have one of the worst franchises in the entire NBA, if not the worst franchise in the entire NBA. You fired your coach, and I understand that, but, I mean, why could you blame him giving him the roster that you gave him? And that's the fact of the matter. But then to go ahead and hire an assistant coach from the very same team, I'm scratching my head about this. Scratching my head about this. Maybe they get it that they're a bunch of years away, because they're a long time away from any relevance in the NBA right now. They're a long time away.
Long-term interim.
Yeah.
I'm a placeholder.
A bridge. Yeah, exactly. You're starting to get this thing, Pete.
Yeah.
You're starting to get this thing. All right. So in our segment, Live by the Jump Shot, Die by the Jump Shot, we bring in our big guy, Big Carl Cat Anthony Towns. Okay, 6'11", 7 foot, and he loves to shoot the three ball. Well, this has really, really proved problematic for him in the series with the Dallas Mavericks and for his teammates. The Big Cat, the cat is he's on a hot tin roof right now. Okay, before the game the other night, which they staved off elimination. They were down 3-0, staved off elimination. In the 3 games that they lost, he goes 4 for 32 from three-point range. 4 for 32. And they went 0-3. They lost every single game and just completely took them out of offensive rhythm at times, scratching your head at the shot selection at times. I just didn't get it. In Game 4, he did make a comeback, 4 out of 5, and then was 9 of 13 overall. I got a trade for everybody that I'm willing to throw up here right now as we approach the draft. I think this makes sense. I might have thrown something similar up at the trade deadline, but I'm going to throw it up right now. Here's what's going to go down. This is a $1 billion swing for the New York Knicks if they can pull it off. All right. Julius Randle, not my favorite New York Knick. We're going to package him together with Jason Hart, who had a really, really good year for the Knicks this year. We're going to also include the number 24 pick. We're going to ship all of that to the Los Angeles Lakers for LeBron James with the promise that they will draft Bronny James at number 25.
Wow.
Now, I don't think that Bronny James belongs as a 25th pick, but that's a $1 billion NBA play.
That would entice LeBron
to come. $1 billion NBA corporate play. And I'm going to be honest with everybody. If you want to see LeBron end his career in relevance, and I think that the NBA probably has a vested interest in that, if you do want to see him end that in relevance, the Knicks are a lot closer to that than the Los Angeles Lakers are right now. And so there's my deal, Pete. I throw it out there. Go for it.
And it's also keeping LeBron in a major television market, too.
100%. 100%. You're really starting to get this stuff, Pete. You're really starting to, because your background in media is really, because everything is media now in the NBA, so you're really starting to see how this plugs in.
Sure.
All right, so now we're going to give you a little bit of what the New York Knicks have as operating as a war chest. And I will give the New York Knicks management, I was down on them for many, many years, but right now the Knicks basketball team, with the team that they have on the floor and what they have in their war chest of draft picks right now, is something really interesting. So I want everybody to hold on to their hat just for I'm going to take you through it in 40 seconds, but it gets a little hairy here. Okay, so hold on. In 2024, which is this year's draft, they have the 24th and 25th pick. Very similar to the Brooklyn Nets last year, where the Nets had 2 late-round picks. They took Derek Whitehead and they took Noah Clowney, I believe. Okay, so the Knicks have 24 and 25. I think that would be a nice little something to put together as an enticement package to bring LeBron James here. And here's why I think it's okay to give up the pick. Because in 2025, they have their own first-round pick. All right. In 2025, they also have Milwaukee's first-round pick,
Wow.
and it's protected only 1 through 4. Very, very slim chance that Milwaukee will wind up in the lottery with Giannis and the other great players that they have there and wind up 1 through 4. So the Knicks have Milwaukee's pick protected 1 through 4, but they could wind up with a pretty good pick there. In 2025, they also have Detroit's protected pick, and the Detroit pick is a little heavily protected here. 1 through 13 in 2025, 1 through 11 in 2026, 1 through 9 in 2027. So that pick is heavily protected. But again, that could be part of a deal to get to somebody else because it's very, very unlikely that Detroit climbs out of that climbs out of the depths of where they are right now anytime soon.
Right.
And then in 2025, they also have Washington's first pick, and that's 1 through 10 protected in 25, and also 1 through 8 protected in 26. I think that looks like a pretty good bet for Washington. But the Knicks do have a significant war chest of draft picks coming up here, and they can do some damage. In the 24 and 25 spot, in this draft, you might find yourself 2 pretty good players. Last year's draft was a little bit top-heavy, and then it kind of gave out in the middle, and then at the end there was a little bit of this, a little bit of that if you were a smart general manager. This year, I think you're not going to see the top be as heavy, although we have some stuff up there that we like, and we're going to talk about that. But right now, you're going to see a little bit better middle maybe this year, and maybe a little bit better back end. We'll talk about that. All right, so you have Tyronn Lue, the Clippers, Lulu. They're going crazy out there for Tyronn Lue. He's 312 and 217, and there's talk that they're going to elevate him as to one of the highest paid coaches in NBA right now. Here's a little bit of draft history for you, Pete, okay? It was actually funny the way this went down. There were 2 different times just recently where the 76ers went first, the Lakers went second, and the Celtics went third. And this is how you can build a franchise, or this is how you cannot build a franchise. And it's interesting to look at this little segue here. The 76ers took Markelle Fultz with the number 1 pick. And then they took the very next year, they took, not the next year, but right after that, they took Ben Simmons as well. The 2 most handicapped psychologically shooters in the NBA right now. 2 very, very good, talented players, but it was interesting that they took both of those gentlemen back-to-back. Maybe they thought that they had the right shooting instructors there. The Lakers took Lonzo Ball and then took Brandon Ingram with the 2 picks. Those are back-to-back. Now when the Celtics were in the 3 spot, both times they took Jason Tatum and they took Jaylen Brown. So you see how they built their franchise, and these other ones really, really didn't do well. That's why we're telling every general manager in the NBA, do yourself a favor, sit down for 30 minutes tonight and check out In the Zone, because I think we did a pretty good job with the draft. It's going to obviously be amended. We're going to add the international flavor. We're going to add the G League flavor. And it's really interesting now to sit back when we've been doing this show, Pete, to see that the NBA is really, they're vested into this international game for a reason.
Sure.
The American game really hasn't held up its end. And they have European styled the game and done some other things, but the American players right now, as I was looking through it, not a lot of them, especially our taller players, aren't especially prepared for the grind of the NBA. I know they all have strength and conditioning coaches in the colleges and stuff, but sometimes when I'm looking at some of these young men, Jesse Edwards, 7 foot, maybe you just can't put weight on some of these guys. I don't know. Eves Missy, they're just very, very long and thin. And if they got stronger, they'd be very, very dynamic in the NBA, I think.
Do the basketball teams have weightlifting programs or not?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. At this high level that they're at.
I mean the NBA teams, but I mean the NCAA teams.
No. I understand you.
Okay.
The NCAA all have strength and conditioning coaches.
Okay.
And they all have them in there. And I'm going to tell you something that might surprise you. The NCAA level, they're going to see their strength and conditioning coach as much, if not more, than they see their head coach.
Okay. I would buy that because
Most
it
likely
takes longer
more.
time to build. Yeah, to do
And
those.
most likely more.
Okay.
Well, also a lot of these head coaches, they have guys in there running practice and stuff like that. If you watch some of the mess that came out of that fallout from Kentucky, and we're going to talk about that briefly. That was the guys are saying they didn't know what time practice was. There wasn't a set time for practice. It was all over the map. They wouldn't get assistant coaches wouldn't be telling them what time practice was. I mean, that's like, well, you can see. Now you can see. Okay, so the playoff leaderboard right now, we used to give you the leaderboard. We're only going to give you the playoff leaderboard in scoring. And if it wasn't for injury this year, Embiid might have had a chance to go back to back. He was averaging 33 points a game in the playoffs, played very well, knocked out early, but they don't have a lot of pieces around him. Jalen Brunson had a great playoff, averaged 32.4 points a game. And we've talked about this young man quite a bit. People are bandying him about as one of the best players in the NBA. I think that's a bit premature right now, especially given kind of where the balance of power rests right now. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 30 points a game. Rebounding, Anthony Davis from the Lakers, 15.6. Joker at 13.4. And Hart from the Knicks, 11.5. That's the guy I think the Lakers could use. I think they could take Julius Randle and start to build out there and take some of this youth movement and start to build out there. But they're certainly going to be in rebuild mode. You could keep Anthony Davis, build around him at the center spot, throw in Randle, throw in Hart, and then with the 2 draft picks that you just picked up, the one that you have your own and the one you got from the Knicks, you might be able to build a little base around that and make it worthwhile. I think there's some good picks down there at the end of the draft they might be able to get, especially when you throw some of the international players in. But I'm going to say something about the international players in this year's draft just on my brief look into that foray into the G League as well. I'm not a big G League guy, and I'm also watching this international thing, and it's a little surprising to me that all of a sudden everybody comes out of France. And so that's a little bit weird to me right now. And I think this year's group of European players aren't the same as what we've been having in some of the picks that have been there with Joker and Doncic and some of the others. I think right now the NBA general managers better tread lightly with this group of international players.
So it's a lighter class coming from the internationals?
I've looked at it just very briefly, and they're very hyped. They're very hyped, and that's, of course, that's with the social media and everything like that. But when you really dig into it, I think, there's a chance that some of these young men that they're talking about, and I won't mention their names right now, we'll talk about them in the draft more in depth when we get into it, but there's several international players right now that it would not surprise me if they lasted a good long time in the NBA, but it also wouldn't surprise me if they got injured very, very early. They're very young, very, very not in the NBA body set, not in the conditioning mode as well. So I'd keep an eye on that. The assist, Doncic led in assists. Luka, that's why his team's doing so good, because he's scoring and he's assisting. He's helping Kyrie, and they're a dynamic 1-2 punch right now. And you have LeBron, 8.8 assists, really good job for him in the playoffs. And the Joker, 8.7. LeBron led in steals with 2.4. He's not that old, folks. He can still get that motor running. I think he'd have 2 or 3 years to get into New York and really make a great run here at another championship with that team.
Is LeBron transitioning into that role you gave him about being the prime ball handler?
They haven't done that, no. But
okay.
and if they traded him to the Knicks, you wouldn't need to do that,
okay,
because you already have Jalen Brunson there. But I think that you have a 24-second clock in the NBA, and the seconds per possession. I hope I said that right. In the NBA, it used to be 11. Now it's down to 9, which means instead of 24 seconds, they're only using 9.
Okay.
And so the game is moving at a much faster clip. And what I say is to put the ball in the guy that makes the best decisions on your team because of that rate, because of that. Half the time at that clip, he's not even getting involved in the play at all.
Right.
And I want him involved in a very, very high percentage of plays. That's what that does. The Lakers didn't listen to me. They got bounced out. I'm not sure that would have helped them. But if I was the Knicks, I would consider possibly, bringing him and Brunson into a kind of a 2-guard tandem front and letting them, because Brunson can score the ball too, so you could do that as well. A couple other things. Holmgren here led in blocks. 3-point made was Tyrese Maxey, and Halliburton shot the ball pretty well as well. When it comes to playoff offensive rating, The Celtics were number one offensive rating. The Pacers and the Knicks 1, 2, and 3, which is a little bit odd because usually that West Coast is really known for their efficiencies on the offensive end. Brought in the Timberwolves on the fourth slide there. So that was interesting to see that the East Coast has kind of grabbed that offensive rating. Their efficiencies are great. If you watch the Indiana Pacers and Rick Carlisle, I think, like I watch his offense, I'd say, wow, if he coached the Celtics, that'd be something to watch because their offense was really, really good. Far superior, I thought, to the Celtics offense when watching that series. The Celtics had the far superior talent, but I would really like to see a coach like Carlisle come in and coach the Celtics because their talent stands around way too much and just is very, very static right now and doesn't have much design to it. And when you have that 1-2 punch, you're going Luka Kyrie, where the Celtics have to get into that Jalen and Jason, that J and J type of thing. They kind of fall off of that sometimes because they just don't, and Horford's been great and some of the other guys have really picked up the slack, but you don't see that same kind of battering ram, with the Celtics because they just don't have that design. They stand around just way too much for me.
People are saying that the Celtics are really going to need Porzingis for this series to get through it.
There's talk of him coming back, but there's also a chance if they rush him back too soon, he's going right back out, Pete. That's the type of injury. If you rush him back too soon, he's going right back out. And so we'll see. And I'm sure he wants to play, and I'm sure they want to get him back, but you also want to make sure that he can cover his defensive side too, because where the injury is going to impact him the most is going to be on the defensive side. On offense, he's going to be able to probably get his shot off, get spaced, and be able to be productive in that vein. But on the defensive ends where he's really going to have to move his feet and lower extremities, and that's going to be the interesting part to see. If I was the Celtics right now, you got to put him in. Right? If he goes back out again, well, then he's in the same spot that he is right now.
Right.
But you got to see if you can get through it, manage it, and get him through. That's what I would say. You're going down the stretch here. You're fortunate. And if you're sitting at home and you're a Celtics fan, you start rooting for the Timberwolves because the Timberwolves will keep the Mavericks in that series longer and longer and longer, and every day that series goes longer is a rest day for Porzingis. It's a healing day for Porzingis. It's a day in the training room where the trainers can get him up and really work him and see if they can get him stronger than what he was the day before. So every single day that the Wolves they're down 3-1 right now. There's not a lot of chance they're going to come all the way back, but if they could just slow this freight train down just a little bit and give the Celtics a little bit more rest time, obviously that's going to favor Porzingis. That's going to favor their lineup. So if you're a Celtics fan right now, you better be rooting hard for the T-Wolves. Okay, we're going to NCAA fish right now, and this is a beautiful thing that we talked about with the NIL. Pete talked about it right off the get-go. There is a time now where you can look and see young men making better, more informed decisions about their draft status and what they should be doing about attempting to play in the greatest professional league that's in the world right now. They're able to do that and make better decisions because of the NIL, which makes it comfortable, a lot more than comfortable in some cases, but it makes it comfortable for them to stay in college where they didn't have a whole lot of money before, and now they're able to earn money outside of that realm, and it's been helpful. The huge, huge news that hit the NCAA this week, Pete, though, is that the NCAA is now folded up completely, and they are allowing the NIL to be returned to the campuses, to be moved to the campuses. So now they're going to pay right off of the campuses. They're going to pay right out of whatever budget that they have there on the campus, that's where it's going to get paid out of. And it's going to be obviously still NIL, still some of that stuff in the package of it. But right now, all of that stuff has been co-opted and moved to the campus because the court is in the court right now. This is lawfare. This is people moving through this with bad intention, I think, as well.
Sounds like a serious scheme going on here.
Well, here's what it is. We say this before. We looked at it again, and Pete has that great cash register thing that we use here quite a bit. But big eats little. Big eats little. The football schools now are flexing their muscles completely. They're not playing games anymore, and they are absolutely out to crush these non-football schools. That's what's going on right now. All of the money, all of the cash, all that register is ringing, ba-boom, 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 day in and day out. But they're absolutely, I think, have crossed over the line where these schools that are in the mid-majors and the schools that are in the low majors right now, they have to have some bearing to sue, because where they're going right now is either one of two things is going to happen. And this is really, this is where I don't want to hurt people's feelings and I don't want to get people all excited, but there's only one of two things that can happen right now. You're going to have Division I AA in basketball, where all of those schools that we just aforementioned are going to be relegated down to a AA status. They won't be in the NCAA Division I anymore. They'll be Division 1A, 1AA. They'll call it whatever they want to call it.
Which is what they used to do.
But they not in basketball.
Okay.
Basketball's always been that big March Madness where everybody had a chance. Everybody had a play. Everybody came in and everybody could get to the March Madness and have a shot. No more. That's out now. This is going to be the top teams are going to fill that tournament. They're going to fill it based on what they call now net ratings, what they used to be Sagarin ratings or Ken Palm ratings or any of those things we've talked about on the show a lot of times.
Sure.
The thing I don't like about the net is you're going to see all of these teams now, because the net allows you to increase your net by margin of victory. So what you're going to see is these big teams with all of this money playing St. Mary's Sisters of the Poor, St. Mary's Sisters of the Homeless, all of these schools now, and they're going to blow them out.
Sure.
They're going to blow them out beyond
Skiers to
recognition.
like 120 to 40.
And then that's going to help their net rating come NCAA time. And so it's absolutely weapons of math destruction going on right here, and I can't believe that they're just allowing it. Okay, so here's what the NIL brought, and we're going to call it Home Sweet Home, all right, because this made it easier for a number of these gentlemen last night to drive me absolutely insane, but also to make a good, informed decision for them, their families, and everybody, and I'm okay with that.
Should we throw this graphic up for a minute?
Sure.
That one, and then go back to fish?
No, you can leave it right there if you want. We can leave the portal potty because this has a lot to do with it. Somebody, we're going to mention this guy in a minute, but some guy has announced that he has just re-entered the portal. So we'll keep that up there.
How's that possible?
In his honor. I have no idea. But he had committed to a school and then re-entered the portal. I love it.
I thought
really
the portal
do.
was closed.
It is.
Didn't you say that in one of these shows a couple of weeks ago?
It must have a back door. It must have a back door. I believe it was May 1st. But here's the sweet home. So this is going to help some of these college programs as well, if you can get your guys back. Get your guys back. Okay? Mark Sears, Alabama, going back. He's going back to college. Trevon Brazil from Arkansas, going back to college. Here's one for the Huskies. They're going to be howling, Pete. But I also I'm going to temper all of that for them. I looked at their roster recently, and if something doesn't change really dramatically, I don't see a three-peat in the way. But I'm not going to bet against them. But that's just what I'm seeing right now. But Alex Caravan, and I'm going to say this right now, Alex Caravan will never be an NBA player. He'll be one of the most decorated college players of all time if he stays at UConn. He has 2 rings already, but I watched him in the combine. He'll never be an NBA player. Okay, I could be proven wrong. I'm going out on a limb there. Johnny Broom going back to Auburn, and they're going to love that. He's one of the best big men in the country right now, and that's awesome. One of the guys who drove me right out of my seat last night was Neek Clifford. He's going back. Coleman Hawkins from Illinois just recently, very quickly decided to go back. They're going to like that. JT Toppin, I was surprised at this one because what I saw in the combine, I liked on this young man. I liked the way he played the game. He decided to go back in, but he's not going back to New Mexico. He's actually going to find a new home at Texas Tech. Caleb Love, this was a big one.
You have to just laugh at this point.
It is comical. Caleb Love from North Carolina transferred to Arizona. Probably one of the better guards in the country right now is going to go back to Arizona. That absolutely huge for the Wildcats out there. They're going crazy about that. as we said, the court met the court, and the NIL, the collective, have been placed in the universities right now, and we're now just going to watch and see how this mayhem takes place. Great news out there for Arkansas fans. John Calipari says he has a new approach. He's going to do it different. Okay, and so here's the things that I got.
Do we really believe this?
And this just gets under my skin a little bit, so I'm just going to let it out a little bit. It's almost, it's almost summertime here, beautiful weather coming, but I'm going to let it out a little bit. Okay, you're too young. Now there's too many. Okay, we're going to keep it down to 8, 9 guys. Go ahead, try it. I dare you. Try that. Okay, but there was too many. We were too young. All these other teams had 25 and 26-year-old guys. Well, you're the guy who invented one and done. And so that doesn't surprise anybody that you have a young team. It shouldn't surprise you as well. But at Kentucky, you took Kentucky into the NCAA tournament, and you took a dump to St. Peter's. You took a dump to Oakland, and then had the audacity to fly off and do the Arkansas chicken dance. That's all. That's all. I just wanted to say that. Okay. Pay me my money down. It's an old great Bruce Springsteen song, Pay Me My Money Down. Here's the guy we're talking about, Pete. Samford, he started out there. A.J. Staten McCray. That's our gentleman. He re-entered the portal after committing to Florida Atlantic University. I love it. I'm back in the portal. Who's going to stop me? He's standing up on the mountain going, who's going to tell me no? Is it the NCAA? I don't think so.
Where's superhero Charlie Baker when you need him?
He's in Tahoe. He's in Tahoe. Okay, so I brought up a new segment, Pete, and we're going to have to hustle through it. But since all of this change has come about, we now have a segment, what we're going to call the review of terminologies, or ROT, R-O-T, the review of terminologies. The campus visit is no longer the campus visit. It will now be known as the on-site shakedown. 100% committed. It doesn't mean 100%. That's fuzzy math. It's 100% almost, until somebody else gives me more money, and then it's going to be a lot less than 100%.
You know what just popped into my head?
I'm re-entering the portal, Pete.
The Land of Confusion by Genesis.
Oh, great one. Great song. And I don't know if we could find one that's more apropos. Okay, the backdoor play. I used to love this. Pete Carrill, the Princeton offense, the backdoor play. That's no longer in effect. The backdoor play now is when you're a mid-major school and your guy now averages 10 points, he gets the call from the Power 5, and they backdoor play your whole program. You're out. The alley-oop. The alley-oop, that's the bag of cash that goes over the wall now when they have to get the guy signed late. Okay, the old alley-oop, the big bag of cash. This is something that hurt me a little bit with the NIL. It was the death of the bag man. I used to love the bag man. You'd see him out there. I said, what are you doing, man? How's things going? What are you up to? Dropping bags? And say, awesome, man. Have a great day. At least you know who the guy was, what he stood for. And you could see him out there clear as day doing exactly what he said he was doing. But the bag man is gone now, and now they're called agents.
No more cloak and dagger.
Agent Orange. Now they're called agents. Okay, so they're no longer bagmen. And if you want to know why these numbers, if you hear these numbers, he got 2 million, he got 1.5, they're not getting that number. And then you sit there and you shake your head and you go, Rich, who would want to inflate that number? Who would want to say more than that he would get? The guy who gets something if the number goes up. The agent. That's who did it. There you go. The NCAA. Now, we are no longer going to be able, in ROT technology and terminology, the NCAA will now be referred to as the largest lemonade stand in the entire country. They're a lemonade stand. That's it, Pete. We're going.
Even better.
1 billion, gajillion, fifillion. Shabba-doodle-oo,
I love it. I don't know where you got that one, but I love it. Conference realignment is now just catfish looking for a bigger bowl. And non-football schools, you have now entered into what is known as the dead pool. Okay, Pete, we're going to have to fly here. All right. Here's the NBA draft order. That's why this is the fastest hour in basketball, folks. We don't play around here. We give you what you need. All right, the Atlanta Hawks have the number 1 pick. They'll be followed up by the Washington Wizards. I saw our local hero and great Will Dawkins is now the general manager of the Washington Wizards, and we're wishing him nothing but the best in this upcoming draft. Houston Rockets via Brooklyn Nets have the 3rd pick. San Antonio Spurs in the number 4 spot. There's an opportunity there to add a little something to Wembayana. And if Zach Edey is still available, Spurs pull the trigger on that and give everybody something in the NBA to watch where they'll block more shots than anybody in NBA history. That would be unbelievable. I think that Edey could be that could be a good spot for him. I'm really high on this young man. I really am. Detroit Pistons at 5, Charlotte Hornets at 6. There's a chance for somebody to go and end their career. There's a chance for somebody to walk into the absolute 2 worst franchises in the NBA right now and go in there and become an absolute afterthought. Okay? We're sorry. But Detroit and Charlotte, 5 and 6. They have one of the Thompson twins is down there. The Hornets, they have a few, but there's just not a lot going on down there. And then it gets bad also, as you could be in the number 7 spot and wind up in Portland with the Trailblazers. And the good news is that they have now gone again and made drugs illegal in Portland. Okay, so at least for a while there, if you were in last place, you had all of those drugs that you could avail yourself to in order to pass your day. But now, as a Portland Trailblazer, you're going to have to suck it up and go without the majority of the drugs. I think they'll keep the marijuana still available, though. All right, San Antonio Spurs via Toronto. There it is, Pete. You got a chance. You have the 4 and the 8 pick. For the San Antonio Spurs, you could cook something up there. You could do something pretty good there, especially in this draft. If you wound up with, you have Wembayana, so now you got to build around that, right? What else do you need? You don't count Wembayana as a center, so you could take Donovan Clingan in the 4 spot there. Yeah. You could take Edey. I think that's not a bad spot. But they're on the clock right now. They better start doing their homework. Memphis Grizzlies 9, Utah Jazz 10, Chicago Bulls 11, Oklahoma City Thunder come in at 12. I'm not going to bore you with the rest. I will tell you that the Boston Celtics are all the way down in the 30 pick. Previously alluded, the Knicks will be in the 24 and 25 spot. Okay, Pete, this is the reason we do it this way. I got 23 minutes to fly through this, and so I'm going to do the best that I can. I think I'm going to make it, but everybody always says that before they jump right off the cliff, and then they don't make it. But I'm going to make it, I think. All right, so we did the draft, and I want to talk to everybody about why I did it this way. I want to give our NCAA players a chance for a spotlight here. So we did our first round of NBA draft with NCAA players only. There are no G League players in here currently. There are no international players in here currently. We will mix them in as time goes on. And as previous shows have shown, we go through about a 3-step process with the draft. Okay, because what's going to happen is we're going to give you our top 30, but then there's 2 rounds. Then we add international players. We throw in the second round. We keep mixing it. We keep shaking it. We keep going after it, and we get after it. And right up until the end, when the NBA draft will come, we're going to be able to put together our 58 picks that we'll have. There is, again, 58 picks. There's 2 picks that were forfeited. So we're going to go through the 58. But right now, we are about to give you our top 30 in the NBA draft. I really like this time of year because this gives me, it gives me something to do, but it also is in draft prep. And I love to challenge myself to see how we do. And last year, obviously, the money up front was the money up front. You know, you had Wembayana, you had Brandon Miller, you had Scoot Henderson, the Thompson twins. You know, that was the five. Nobody was really. There's a whole lot of, you know, disparity amongst people that those were the five. Wembayana was obviously the one. Where the 2, 3, 4, and 5 went, you know, weren't really relevant. But you kind of knew in that first cohort, that's your first five guys. I would say going into this draft right now, they don't know who those first five are right now. That could move and change a lot, I think. But when I watched the combine and I did some of the other stuff there, I was intrigued by some of what I saw. This is the strategy that I took. There are no generational talents in here that are going to really knock it out of the park as soon as they start playing in the NBA, like a Victor Wembanyama. Brandon Miller had a great year as well. The Alabama star had a great year in the NBA as well. Jamie Jaquez had a great year in the NBA. Brandon Podziemski had a great year in the NBA. Trace Jackson Davis, the guy we gave you early last year, we thought he should have been a lottery pick, and we were proven out by that. That's why I really like doing this, because we got proven out by that. We kept telling everybody, take this guy, take him. He's really, really good, and nobody took him, and all the way to the end, then they watched him in the NBA. He's going to be a 10 to 12-year NBA pro, and he's going to be a really good player. And as Golden State starts to change generationally out there, I think with Podziemski, and I wasn't high on Podziemski, by the way, but those two players are going to be exciting young players. And anytime you get somebody in that 58 spot, remember, Joker was taken in the second round. Anytime you can get somebody like that late, you've really helped your franchise.
That's a steal, yeah.
That's unbelievable. Okay, so here we go. We gave you 1 and 2 already in previous shows. So if you've been paying attention, you know our 1 and 2 already. We're going to give them to you anyway. Very high on this man. 2-time Wooden Award winner. That's not common. He was also All Big Ten. 22 and 15, an average, just dropped 40 in the NCAA tournament on numerous occasions. He became the actual linchpin for that Purdue team. We're very high on him. A lot of other people are not. Why do you think that is, Pete? Why do you think with this guy's talent, this guy's numbers, that people aren't as high on him as they should be?
Probably because they think he's going to get injured. He's too big.
And I'm high on him, and I could be wrong. You have to open up that possibility, right?
Yeah.
I could be wrong. But I think that with what's here, okay, we've gone with Zach Edey as the number 1 pick, 7'4" out of Purdue.
I'm not disagreeing with you all on it. I think he is the number 1 pick.
Out of all the NCAA players that are here, and I'm going to go through this again. When the international players get involved in this, I think you're going to see that Zach Edey might be the overall number 1 best value pick right here in the draft. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that right now. I'm very high on this young man as well. I'm happy because I love this young guy's story. I'm happy and elated to go with our number 2 pick. The Huskies are going to be howling down in stores, Pete. Donovan Clingan, 7'2", Connecticut. Just a footnote for all you general managers. I know you know this, but he has the same exact wingspan as Zach Edey. He's almost 2 inches shorter, but he has the same exact wingspan as Zach Edey, and that matters when you're talking about blocking and changing shots. In this draft, what we went for is the size, because we didn't think there was all that great generational stuff. We said, let's get all of the things that are hard to be out there, and that's 7'4", 7'2", 6'11", 6'10". Now we go with a gentleman that I really, really was high on, and then when I saw him in the combine, I got a little bit even more involved, and I started watching him a little bit more closely. I'm going to move him into the 3 spot here. It's going to surprise some people, but I'm not surprised by it. The only thing that would be my reservation with this young man is as he was running up and down the floor in the combine, it looked like his feet were hurting. Just the way he runs, he looked like he was, but he's a terrific athlete, very explosive. We're going to go with Kashad Johnson out of Arizona in the number 3 spot. NBA, general managers, this young man knows how to play. He's got good athletic ability, good athletic skill, but he also knows how to play. He moves without the ball. He shoots the ball well. He's got very, very good, pretty sizable body that is really almost NBA ready right now. In this draft, I think you're going to see that there's a lot of not NBA body ready people in here that might take a year or two to get stronger. But if you look at what happened with Chet Holmgren, I think that was the right approach to take with Holmgren. They took the year off, almost redshirted him, in my opinion, got him stronger, got him physically ready, and he spent the whole year as a force in the NBA this year because he does have tremendous size and tremendous ability to change shots. But Keshad Johnson goes in at number 3. We're going with Kyle Filipowski in number 4 pick. I think people are going to surprise some people, but we like Filipowski because he's tough. He's 7 foot, played at the highest level at Duke, and was one of the best players in the entire country. I don't love his ability, his fluidity. I don't love his ability to score from the outside right now, although I think that could change. I like his game a lot. Cody Williams, number 5 out of Colorado, the Mercurial forward, can really do a lot of things, slash. I believe on the open floor in the NBA, Cody Williams is going to benefit from that. He's going to be one of the beneficiaries of being out in the open floor. He's got good size, he's got good length, and he can get to the basket, and he also has a pretty good skill set as far as shooting the ball and scoring the ball. I think this is going to surprise some people, but I don't know why, because when you have 7 foot and they can run and do things, that's going to be successful in the NBA in one of the two positional breakouts that you have for the center in the NBA. The positional breakout in the NBA is you have a low post center, a little bit like Shaquille O'Neal, where he gets the ball, he scores down there. There's not a lot of that anymore. And then you have the other one where it's a defensive guy, a Derek Lively, 7-footer, runs the floor real well. Luka and Kyrie are handling all of the offensive stuff, but he's a guy who's going to block a shot, dunk the ball, and do some of that stuff. So those are the two prototypes right now. And the latter prototype is the one that's winning the day. But Filipowski is going to be a little bit of an old school guy. He's going to be around the basket, and I like that. Kel'el Ware is the gentleman that I think people are going to be surprised. He's done our number 6 pick, 7-footer out of Indiana. He runs the floor like a deer. He can dunk everything. He's going to block some shots. He's going to rebound. In this draft, you take size, and it's going to work for you. Number 7, Terrence Shannon out of Illinois. I'm really high on this gentleman. I was a little surprised that he only measured in the 6'5" and change range when he went to the combine, but he's a terrific scorer, really put the ball on the ground, and he can do some things. He reminds me of Quentin Grimes a little bit, who's currently in the NBA, but 7. Now, again, when the international players come into this, is he 7? No, he's not going to be 7. Number 8, combine, he got a bump in the combine. I was really high on this young man before this. I saw him in the combine. I'm a little bit higher than I was when I saw it because I watched him really out on the floor with some really good players, and he held his own tremendously. Number 8, 6'9", out of Marquette, Oso Ighodaro. He's going to be a force in the NBA, I believe. I think he's got the athletic ability. 6'9", I'd like to see him be maybe an inch or two bigger, but I think he's going to be okay. He'll remind some people of Adamo Sanoga, a little bit better than that. I thought he handled the ball pretty well, and I wouldn't want him shooting the ball away from the basket too much, but it wasn't terrible. Number 9, 6'6", the Huskies will howl one more time. Stephon Castle. People are very, very high on him, going up almost into the number 1 pick in range and into the top 5. I wasn't as high on him. I think when it all shapes out, he's going to be a 14 or a 15, but right now, I have him at 9. Number 10, this is one of the best athletes in the entire draft combine. I don't know positionally where it's all going to fit together. He can go into a 4 spot, maybe. I don't know about center because I thought he was a little taller than this. But Adem Bona, 6'9", out of UCLA, really athletic, can do a lot of stuff. I think his game offensively is a little bit limited away from the basket. But he's one of those guys that if he has to play center in the NBA, it could be a struggle. If they can find a position away from that for him, I think that would be beneficial, but that's going to remain to be seen. But tremendous athlete, unbelievable. He has NBA body right now, and he's got tremendous NBA athleticism right now. All right, in the number 11 spot, moved him up a little bit because I do like this young man. I thought that the NCAA, they're letting everybody go this way, that way, and everywhere. They shut down this guy's appeal for an injury, and I didn't get it. But Enfale Dante had a very good NCAA tournament. He's 6'11". He runs the floor well, handles the ball okay when he was out on the open floor the other night. Took it to the basket pretty strong. I like him. 6'11", can block some shots, and he's mobile, agile, and hostile. He'll do a lot of good things around the basket for you. I don't think he's going to change your life, but if you're, the Knicks and you have, if he's around at 24, maybe you want to jump on that. Isaac Jones, 6'9", out of Washington State, really helped himself at the Combine. I watched him, I liked him, and really, really did some good things there. He's going to be he's just one of these guys that's in this positional type thing. Are they big enough to play center in the NBA? Maybe not. Are they skilled enough to play forward in the NBA? Maybe not. That's, the thing that has to be determined with a bunch of these guys. Isaac Jones being one of them. 13, Devin Carter out of Providence. I was surprised at his vertical leap. He's a tremendous shooter, but I was also surprised that he's one of these gentlemen that go to the Combine and they get smaller. And so he went in there at, 6'5", 6'6", or whatever it was, and came out 6'3". So I don't know what happened to him. Maybe went through the car wash before he got there and shrunk up a little bit. But Baylor Shearman at 14, I thought this was the MVP of the Combine. I thought he had the best Combine. He's out of Creighton. He's 6'8". He's left-handed. He reminds me of Chris Mullen with the shooting touch that he has. And you're going to notice here, and I think this is going to be something that people will notice dramatically here. There's a lot of people that people were talking about that we haven't even picked yet. Reed Shepherd hasn't been picked yet. Dalton Connect hasn't been picked yet. Just not that as high on them. And of all of those type of players, I really like Baylor Shearman a lot, because if you put him in with the right group of players, his shooting is deadly. His shooting is deadly. What I liked in the Combine that I saw from him was when he wasn't open to shoot the ball, his decision-making was very sound, very good. He's got great size, and watch him shoot. Watch him shoot. He'll give it to you. All right, Jalen Tyson out of California, 6'8". He has some ability to play guard. He can score. He can do a lot of different things. We have him in the 15th spot. Again, keeping with the bigs are big. We're going with Yves Missy in the 16th spot, 7-footer out of Baylor. He's the aforementioned center type in the NBA. Not going to score a lot of points for you, but he's going to change and block a lot of shots. Okay, 17, people are going to criticize me for this, but I just don't see it right now, especially after 1 year in the NCAA. Not a great cohort to look at. Had a great year for sure, but I got Reed Shepherd in at 17, 6'3" out of Kentucky. I think a lot of people were talking about him as the number one pick. I think that's insane talk. I really do. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's going to be an outstanding pro by any metric, as I don't think Dalton Neck is going to be an outstanding pro by any metric. But we'll see. Number 18, and this was one that I was a little surprised at even myself, that I took Tristan Newton and put him behind Reed Shepherd, because I think as a pro prospect, Tristan Newton might be better than Reed Shepherd. 6'4", the Howlin' Huskies starting point guard, and an amazing, amazing year that he had. Really, really did a great job. Very high on this gentleman in the 19th spot. If you can get him, the Knicks can take a look at him in that spot, in the 24-25 spot. Shout out to the Knicks management. Tristan Da Silva, 6'9" out of Colorado. He's got a European-style game. He can put it on the floor. He can handle it. He can shoot it and do a really good job with it. This might surprise some people that I have him this high, but I liked him in the Combine, and his size and his ability is going to be something that might, wear in the NBA. I have Justin Edwards, only a freshman at Kentucky, but he's 6'8", and he's got some abilities out there, and I really enjoyed watching him during the Combine. I think in the right system, he could do okay. He could be all right. He reminded me a little bit of Michael Beasley. If you're looking for what type of player he can be. He's got a good body, got a big size, but we'll have to see. I'm not in love with his abilities from the perimeter, but he's big enough where he could do some stuff with it. If he works on his shooting, he's going to be all right. 21, Dalton Connect at 6'7" out of Tennessee. Really, really had an amazing year at Tennessee. Got consideration for National Player of the Year. I just don't and I'm not trying to insult anybody. I just don't think, much like I thought with Grady Dick last year, I just don't think that his game translates into the NBA very well. And although I have him in the 21 spot, I probably, as it all gets said and done, when everybody gets thrown into this stew, when it all gets stirred up, I mean, is he a first-round pick? I don't know. I'm going to say there's a chance he won't be. That, because I have him here in 21, when they add all of the international players in and all the G League players in, he's going to get bumped down. There's no question about that. Everybody here could get bumped down. You could hold your spot or you could get bumped down. That's the only option, really, because those players are going to be significant in number. Adding into 30-person cohort, if you throw in 6 extra players that are coming out of there, that's going to bump everybody down a good bit. So Dalton Connect, I mean, at 21, does he get into the 27, 28 range? I could see that happening. I just don't know. Carlton Carrington out of Pittsburgh, we're going to bump him. Again, I'd like to see more of him. Another gentleman, when he took off his shoes out at the combine, lost some size. So we'll have to take a look at that. Kevin McCullough, 6'5", out of Kansas, had an amazing year. And I thought Kansas had a really good chance to be a good tournament team until Kevin McCullough got hurt, and then that really put them on the skids. So I have him down as a draft pick here. I'd like to see a little bit more of him, but he was injured still and able to perform in the combine, so we got a chance not to see him there. But I think some of the other players that were there, when I watched him in college, he's certainly going to fit into that mold. I don't think he'd be, in 24. If the Knicks took him, I think they'd be okay. This gentleman caught a lot of people's interest. He's a West Coast player, so it's a little difficult for everybody to get a hold of him. But Jonathan Mogbo, he's a forward, 6'8", out of San Francisco, drawing attention of a lot of people because he can do a lot of things. He's got some abilities out there, and he had a good time out at San Francisco. And I have 26, Trey Alexander out of Creighton. I think probably could be, of all the considerations that are out there, you have K.J. Simpson, you have Jamal Sheed, you have some other players out there that are getting consideration as point guards. I think of Jared McCain from Duke. I think of all of them. I would probably like Alexander the best because of his size, shooting ability, and he's played at a very high level at Creighton as well. So I have him at the 26 spot. It's 27, Tyon Foster Grant. Is that him behind those Foster Grants, Pete? He's the guy that took Grand Canyon on that NCAA run. He's got good size, good athleticism, and when you say junkyard dog, this young man plays junkyard dog basketball.
Wow, okay.
He's tough. He really gets after it. 28 spot here. Now, he's definitely going to get bounced out of the first round, and I don't think he's going to like hearing that, but I put him in here, and I don't even know if I would have him this high, and he wouldn't have been this high if we didn't have a bunch of departures that occurred last night at midnight. So, Deron Holmes, I threw him in because he's Atlantic 10, out of Dayton. We like him, but another gentleman that's going to have some positional challenges when he gets up to the NBA. He's not going to be an NBA center, folks. Not going to be able to play the 5 spot in the NBA. He doesn't have the size or the girth for that. And then you're going to sit there in a situation and say he would have to cover a Klingon or a Zach Edey at one point just in his own class. There's absolutely no way. And so Deron Holmes, we put him in. I think he'll slide to the second round, and he has the ability. He had the ability to go back to Dayton, but chose not to at this point. You might see some people say, hey, the NCAA doesn't have any right to tell me what I can and can't do about my draft status either. So I'll stay in here as long as I want. And if I want to come back to my college and play, I'm going to do that too. And there's nothing you're going to do about it. So I think that'll be another thing you'll get to see here soon too. And I don't know why, that would be a problem. Why do they need a deadline? They're coming back, then they'll let them know. We're coming back. And
Why
they're not
why
coming
wouldn't
back.
the NBA team start crying foul on that?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't get it. I don't know why they're all upset about it. And the NCAA, is the one enforcing it when they have the ability to enforce nothing. Right now, they have the ability to enforce nothing. All right, here's one I'm going to throw you, Pete, and I think this could, he could hang right around here too, because I think just in his size, ability, And I got a chance to watch him locally a couple of times. Quinton Post, 6'11" out of Boston College. He'll play the center in the NBA spot. A lot like Donovan Clingan, not as good as Clingan, I don't think, but he might be a little bit more skilled offensively than Donovan Clingan is. And I think if you got him late in the first round, he might not be a bad one. But if you get him in the second round, I think you're going to be okay. He's got size. He's really got some ability. And I like the way he looked to bang. He really looked to go after it, last night. He was looking to really be physical with people, and that's going to help him in the NBA. All right, I got Jacoby Walter, 6'4", out of Baylor. Everybody he was going to be number 1. He was going to be number 2. He was going to be number 4, going to be number 7. Had a terrible year at Baylor, really. I got him in the 30 spot, but I think when it all shakes out, this young man might wind himself in the second round. And that might have benefited him from going back to Baylor for one more year. I think that would have been a benefit, but you never know. I'm going to throw him in here last, but I just don't think he's going to make it either. I threw him in there last because he is the junkyard dog. He is the guy that I've had to go to a foxhole with. I'm calling Jamal Sheed. But he's only 6 foot. Played at Houston and did a great job, but I think he's going to get swallowed up in the NBA because of his lack of size and his lack of ability to really create that shot for himself out on the outside. So, Pete, that's it. 1 through 30, bang, bang, bang. We're going to get all of this to Pete and have everybody start working. But that's day 1, folks, today. There it is. That's our first 30, and it came out pretty good. I thought it did all right. Obviously, we're going to change it. We're going to shift it. When we come out with the total draft, we'll have 58 picks for you. I think the second round's going to get a little thin, but we'll get after it. We're in the zone, folks. Thanks again so much. Today might have been 60, Pete. Might have been our 60th show. We'll have to go back and check that with our dynamic research team. Have a great week, folks. We'll see you next week.